Thank you for coming along to today's training, Instagram for Business, the absolute basics. So I'm assuming that there is pretty much no knowledge about Instagram for those who are watching this, either live or on the recorded version later on. Now, that probably isn't the case. The reality is you're probably already using Instagram, but I'm going to be covering pretty much the basics. But as I said, feel free to ask questions as we go through on the chat. So first technical challenge, get these slides going. So who am I? My name is Andrew Knowles. You'll find me on Instagram and Twitter as Andrew Explainer. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook, probably also on TikTok as well, but I haven't really got into TikTok. I often use the hashtag Andrew Explains on Twitter and Instagram, particularly when I'm talking about things. And if you want to talk about this course on social media, hopefully in a nice way, then feel free to use my hashtag, not my hashtag, use the hashtag Andrew Explains. Nobody actually owns a hashtag. I do run a separate session which is all about hashtags and using and how hashtags work. So there's a separate session that covers those in more detail. So who am I? I've been working for myself for the last 12 years. I went freelance as a copywriter 12 years ago, having had a background in finance and IT and training. I've been training for over 25 years. When I went freelance 12 years ago, I quickly got into using Twitter and other social media systems, and I fell in love with them. I think they're really powerful. And I got into training small business owners in how to use the social media tools and other things as well, like email marketing and other aspects of marketing and communication. So that's what I do now for much of my time. It's helping small business owners really make the most of the tools that are available to them. And why do I do it for free? Well, I don't just do it for free. Obviously, there are paid for options as well, but I run these free courses, and I would hope that I will always be running some element of free courses, because I know that very small business owners, you have little or no budget for training. You will have a hunger for information. You want people who will answer questions honestly, people who won't run a free training session, which is mainly a sales pitch, because this is not a sales pitch. So I do this because I love helping small business owners. It helps you, it helps me. It also keeps me sharp, because I can't talk about Instagram unless I'm reasonably up to date with how Instagram actually works. So it keeps me fresh, it keeps me sharp. So this is a benefit to me in running these training sessions as well. We love training, says Debs, absolutely. Now, this training is powered by Ko-fi or coffee. I'm not sure actually how you pronounce it, probably coffee actually, as it's meant to represent a cup of coffee. It's free, this training is free, it will cost you absolutely nothing, and thank you for coming along. If you would like to support what I do, if you'd like to buy me a virtual cup of coffee to say thank you, or to support what I'm doing, then that would be great. You can go to ko-fi.com/Andrew Explainer, and there we are. You can buy me a virtual cup of coffee. You're very welcome to do that. There is no obligation to, but I'm always very appreciative. So thank you in advance if that's what you choose to do. Okay, let's get into talking about Instagram. That's why we're here this afternoon. And before we talk about using any social media system, it's really important to be clear, why do you want to use the system? What is it you want from it? And it's really important as a small business owner that you know why you're doing what you do. Why do you have a website? Why do you do email marketing? Let's assuming you do email marketing. Why are you using Instagram? Now, the obvious answer is because you want sales, but you want business, you want new customers, but you need to get a little bit more detailed than that. What the purpose is Instagram serving for you? Because otherwise you will just be serving Instagram. You'll just be putting pictures up and putting stories up and reels and getting frustrated potentially because it's not doing what you want. You need to be really clear what it is you want. You might say, well, what I want is a large following. I want to build credibility. I want people to know who I am. I want people to trust me. And those are all good, valid reasons. I want people to come through to my website by clicking on the link in the bio on Instagram. Again, that's great. I want people to sign up to my mailing list. That's great. It's important to have a clear idea of purpose, because that will help you to frame the sort of posts and the sort of information that you share on Instagram. Yeah, where does it fit into your strategy? Now, as a small business owner, strategy may be not much more than just a few thoughts about, well, this is what I want to do, this is where I'm going. but it does help us all as business owners. And I'm in the same boat as you. I've only got 24 hours in the day, and not all of those I'm awake. And I'm trying to run a small business, and I can't do the business and also be thinking about the business and promoting the business at the same time. So there's only a limited amount of time. So strategy could be, it's one of those things that it's not a 20-page document. It's more a series of thoughts. But think about where Instagram fits into your strategy. Because one thing you might decide to do is you might decide, actually, Instagram isn't right for me, or the particular thing that you're looking at might not be right for you. You only have a certain amount of time. You can't do everything. If you are going to use Instagram, or indeed whatever it is that you're using, again, how do you measure the value of what it is that you're doing? These are quite high-level thoughts. These are things to you think, I want to get to grips with using Instagram. But as I said, it's important to think these things through and think about why it is that you're here, why it is that you're using the system. Just looking at the questions here. So Lara says, I'm aiming to use Instagram for motivational posts rather than about my services. Brilliant. That's great. So that's trying to get some, I guess, some visibility with people as somebody who's encouraging and motivational. So feel free to put questions, comments, observations in the chat. I will endeavour to keep up with them. Starting with the absolute basics of Instagram, there are several different types of account on Instagram. So you may be aware of this, but if not, I'll cover them very quickly. When you open an Instagram account, typically the first account that you'll open, it's a personal account. It's where you're sharing pictures of stuff that's personal, that's relevant to you, that's part of your personal life. And that's how Instagram began. Instagram began as just a way of people sharing parts of their lives. Obviously, people started sharing stuff about their business. And so in due course, Instagram introduced the concept of a business account. And more recently, they've introduced the concept of a creator account. Now, you can have more than one Instagram account. I know several of you have got more than one Instagram account. I have too. And each one is either a personal account, or it's a business account, or it's a creator account. Creator and business are very similar. They give you analytics, they give you statistical information in a way that personal doesn't. They allow you to run ads, and there are several other features, and they're always adding and changing these features. One of the aspects of Instagram is that stuff is constantly changing. When I first started running these training sessions on Instagram 4 years ago, there was much less to cover. They've added a huge amount in the last 4 years, some of which is the whole business and creator account type. And if you want, you can change your account type easily. You go into settings, and there's an option there to change the account type. And you can flip-flop between them. So if you want to move between business and creator and have a look at what's different, you won't see, to be honest, huge differences between them. The other two aspects of an account are, is it a public account or is it a private account? Now, a public account is one where all of your posts are visible to everybody who is using Instagram. And a private account, as the name implies, is one where people have to effectively be approved in order to see your posts. Now, my general advice to a business is don't make your account private, because you want to reach as many people as possible. However, I've discovered quite recently, good question there, Vicky, come back to that. Quite recently, I discovered that there is actually a community of people who do use private accounts for business. Who are they? They are their mums, typically, who are typically in the area of selling and promoting products, clothes, and things like that for young children. And they've chosen to have closed communities where they only allow certain people to come in and see their pictures, often because they're sharing pictures of their children. And that's absolutely fine. So that I discovered that actually through my daughter, because she's part of that community. Now, her accounts are public, but she knows people who have private accounts, but they're still using them for business. They're still making them work for business, which is fantastic. So there is a place for private accounts in business where you want to have a control over the audience. So Vicky's question was, do I lose content if moving from personal to business creator? No, you don't. All you're doing is changing the type of account that you've got. The business stroke creator option gives you more, gives people more options on your profile. So for example, you can have a contact button and things like that on your profile, which aren't there on the personal version. So there are some real benefits to having a business or creator account rather than a personal account. It gives you some more options on your profile. What I'll do is I'll shortly we'll endeavor to go live on Instagram for my iPhone, so we can see a bit of Instagram live. So in terms of using Instagram, Instagram was originally designed as an app for a smartphone, and you couldn't access it in any way from a computer. It was only visible from a smartphone or a tablet. However, they have changed that. Instagram, you probably know, but just to be clear, is owned by Facebook, or sorry, it's now owned by Meta. Meta, of course, owns Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and a whole load of other things. So you can now use Instagram on a desktop or a laptop computer. However, Instagram's roots are very much on smartphone. It's designed for smartphone, and a lot of its features, or I say a lot, some of its features, a decreasing amount of its features are only accessible on a smartphone or from a tablet running a smartphone app. So there are still certain things that you can't do on a desktop or a laptop, but those numbers of things are coming down, but there are some limitations. So it is primarily designed for the smartphone environment. Let's start by talking about your profile. And in fact, what I'm going to do now is I am going to switch. Okay, so hopefully you can now. Okay, Lara says she's just changed her account from personal to business and added, brilliant. Okay, so there we are. So you're immediately changing and benefiting from this. And that's excellent. So what you're looking at now is my profile. I'm showing you my profile because obviously I'm an administrator on my own profile. So what you're seeing here is the administration options. So these are the options that you will have on your own account. And mine is set up as a creator account. Now, the difference between business and creator, just to come back to that briefly, is that the general advice from Instagram is that if you're a small business, particularly if you're a one man, one woman operation and you're just getting going, they recommend using the creator option. The business option, they say, is more intended for larger businesses, more established brands, that sort of thing, established influencers, things like that. So mine is set up as a creator, so the differences are minor in all honesty, but they may well be rolling out new features in the future. You can see at the top of my profile, possibly it says professional dashboard, tools and resources just for creators. So I'm seeing some options there, which are just for those using the creator account rather than the business account. So profile. So your profile comprises various elements. It's really important. The photograph is really important at the top there, your profile picture. And I highly recommend, particularly if you're a one-person business, to use a picture of yourself. Now, I know some people don't like to do that. I know some people go, no, I don't want to use a picture of me. I'd rather not be in pictures. I actually help my sister. She runs a small business up in Scotland selling plants. And she detests having her photo taken. I've got lots of photos of plants. I've got lots of photos of a plant nursery. Getting photos of her, particularly looking at the camera, is like I've got about 2 in all the years I've been trying. But I've really laid down the law to announce you need to have some pictures of you, because it's a generally accepted principle. People buy from people. People like to engage with people. You put a picture on something, a picture of a face, it makes it immediately much more engaging. That's why people put pictures of faces on vacuum cleaners. I mean, the Henry vacuum cleaner, apparently sales of that really took off after they put a face on it, just humanized it. So putting a face on your account humanizes it. It builds connection. So I highly, highly recommend that you put your picture in your profile image. And then in terms of the actual profile, well, if you've got a business account or a creator account, you can specify what sort of business you're in. So the nearest I could find for what I do is coach. Doesn't really describe exactly what I do, but that's the nearest option I could find. So mine's described as coach. You'll find there's a whole list of options there. And then I'm using a format that a lot of other people use there for the profile, which is you use an emoji, and then you put a line of text, which indicates something about yourself, but ideally gives people a reason to follow you. So look at your profile and think, am I saying this is what I do? Or am I saying this is why you should follow me? And the two are not quite the same thing. So I do social media training. I help small businesses grow. So I'm hoping that by choosing the way that I phrase those there, I'm putting out there that I'm helping businesses, and it gives you a reason for following me. I have a business account, never been a web creator. How easy is it to change? Asked Paul. It's very easy to change. It's in settings. We'll have a quick if I remember, I'll dip into settings during the session, because there are loads of things in settings and we can't go through anywhere near all of them. Obviously, there's a load of detail we can't cover in this short session, but certainly settings. So let's do that now. So while I'm here on the profile, what's called the hamburger menu, the 3 lines in the top right-hand corner. Now, I've got an iPhone. I appreciate on other devices, the layout may be slightly different. On an Android phone, it can be different. But here, the hamburger menu, top right. So I click on that, and that fires up settings, your activity, a whole load of options there. And the top item there, settings. So I click on settings. So that opens a whole load more of settings. And I recommend that you spend time looking at settings, because you may discover things in there that you weren't previously aware of. It can prompt you to, oh, actually, am I using this particular feature? Have I even heard of this particular feature? Again, when I ran courses 4 years ago, the number of settings were very, very few indeed. Now there's a huge number. Anyway, if I, scrolling down slightly to where it says account. So account is sort of in the middle of the screen there. If I tap on account and then scroll down to the bottom, so even more options in account, scroll right down to the bottom, it says switch account type. I press on switch account type and it says, do I want to switch this to a personal account or do I want to switch it to a business account? So currently I'm using the creator option. And if I click on business account, it comes up saying business accounts are best for retailers, local businesses, brands, organizations, and service providers. You can switch back to a creator account at any time. So I don't want to make the switch, so I'm going to hit cancel at this point. So hopefully that answers that question. Vanessa, I use Facebook Business Suite to schedule posts for Facebook, Instagram, and can't see the rest of that question. If I change to creator, will this work? Yes, I use Facebook Business Suite as well. In fact, I'll talk about Business Suite and also Creator Studio. Yeah, they work absolutely fine, not a problem. So talking about the profile. So the profile. So it's really important because it's obviously where people will go when they're checking you out, when they're looking you up, when they're thinking, should I follow this person? The ratio at the top is quite important, the number of posts, and particularly the number of followers and following. There are quite a few of us who sort of pay attention to that because we are inclined to follow people who, let's be honest, are quite likely to follow us back. That's part of the reason we choose to follow people, isn't it? We want to get sort of reciprocity going, a reciprocal, I follow you, at least consider following me back. If I'm not right for you, absolutely fine. But so people will obviously often choose not to follow somebody who's only following a very, very small number of people. Obviously, if they're a celebrity or if they're a major influencer in their particular world, then that's different. There are influencers out there with hundreds of thousands and millions of followers, and they don't follow everybody back, and you don't expect them to. So there is a certain type of person you don't expect them back. Do you lose content with the switch from business to creator? Says Paul. No, you don't lose anything. The account stays exactly the same. All the data is retained. You're just changing the type of account. You're not losing any data on there. And how can I see who I'm following who's not following me back, says Lara. Yeah, that's a tricky one, actually. Twitter's really great because Twitter tells you when you're following someone, this person's also following me back. I have to say, I've looked into this for Instagram just a little, and it doesn't tell you that. So it is tricky, to be honest. I don't know the answer to that one, Laura. It's one of those questions that I keep meaning to Google and find an answer. Google it. So often what I do, I'm often Googling things to think, how do I find the answer to this question? I suspect it's not easy. It may be possible using a third-party app, something that typically you have to pay for. Anyway, profile. So not going to go through all the buttons there, but you can see I've got 5 buttons: edit profile, add tools. Add tools is basically for adverts. Insights, which is statistics, analytics. I'm not going to spend much time on analytics today, but there are a wealth of analytics and available to you. And if analytics are your thing, you like looking into the numbers, and it's a good thing to do to become familiar with the numbers around your account, then certainly spend some time there. If I just click on insights, they are improving the way insights work. So it's telling me I've reached 129% more accounts compared to the previous time in January. Well, that's not really very difficult because actually I've only I've taken a bit of a break from posting and just restarted. So let's come out of that. But insights, there's a whole load of, say, stats there. Contact's important because so press contact, and there's two buttons that come up here, call and email. And if I go into call, then, well, it's interesting. It's giving me the option to call myself. That's not what I was expecting. I was expecting the option to edit that. An email. Okay, no, it's opening an email. Oh, curious. All right. Okay, I'll be honest, that's not what I was expecting. Previously, when I've done that, the contact details give you the option to set the contact details. I'm guessing that option must be somewhere else. Let's go into edit profile. Edit profile. Oh, here we are. So it's in the edit profile option. So I can change the profile photo at the top. I can edit various things, change my username. You can change your username on your Instagram account. I've done that. This Instagram account has had more than one name. Currently it's Andrew Explainer, but that also changes the web address for it. So if you're going to change the username, it will change the web address. Anything that links to that web address will know the old web address will no longer work. So you be aware of that. And then there's various options down at the bottom there, and yeah, contact options. So that's what I was expecting. Where it says contact options down there, it says email and phone. I can go into there, and that's where I can put the email address that I want to use. And the phone number, and also the WhatsApp phone number. I haven't actually bothered setting up WhatsApp business yet, but it's one of those things that I ought to do at some point. And obviously just click on that and I can edit it. So you can edit the email address or the phone number. Right, okay. So going further down the profile, the next thing you've got is the row of circles, and those are story highlights. Now, you may be familiar with stories, you may not. I've actually just scheduled a course where I will be specifically going through how to create stories and how to manage stories. I'll be doing that at the end of March. So another free session like this one. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about stories, but stories are one of the ways of communicating, and stories are short life posts. They only last for 24 hours, but if you store your stories, and there is an option in settings to say save my stories, and if you turn that option on, I can't remember off the top of my head whether its default is on or off. You might want to go and check that in settings. If you choose to store your stories, you continue to have access to them indefinitely. And what you can do is you can turn those stories into what's called a highlight. So those things going across there are highlights. And you can put a cover picture on the highlight. So I've got several highlights that I need to tidy them up, to be honest. They're a bit dated now. Training about IG tips, Instagram tips. Busy's a networking group that I run. It's taking a bit of a break at the minute. But if I go into, let's say, the about, so I'll click on the about one, which is the second one in. And then I'll just put my finger on there to pause it. And there we are. So this is a story where that I posted last year, just me talking about this is who I am, this is what I do. So it was a story, it was live for 24 hours, people could view it, but then I could go back and say, I actually want to make this part of a highlight. So it's permanently going to be on my, well, permanently, it's there until I choose to remove it. And you can edit highlights. So I just click there on the three dots at the bottom right of the screen, and it says, do I want to remove this from the highlight? Do I want to edit the highlight? And there's various other things I can do there. Boosting, that's paying for something to be turned into an advert effectively. I'll just cancel that and come out of that. So those are story highlights. And I highly recommend you take advantage of highlights on your profile, that you use them. It's a great way of sharing static information. Well, you got there, for example, an about. Well, think of the about page on your website. You can also have an about story or highlight, should I say, on your Instagram profile. And that can be telling people a little bit about who you are and doing it in a way that's a bit more engaging than a website, which is just typically text and maybe some photos, maybe video. But here on Instagram, you can also by using a story, then you can use the story features. And there are loads of different features inside stories. I can't find the save stories in settings, says Linda. Well, remind me at the end, Linda. What I'll do, what I tend to do is when I wrap up, I stay online for a few minutes, and I'm happy to take a few questions. So remind me at the end, and we can look into that one. Okay, so going further down the profile, so then you've got the actual grid of photos themselves. So this is the traditional grid of pictures that from the good old days when Instagram was just pictures and then pictures and video. And you've got several different options across the top there. So what we're looking at is the grid of pictures. There's 3 other options. So I click on the next one across, that's Reels. So these are the Reels that I've created. I haven't created many Reels. As you can see here, come back to Reels and Stories in a moment. Then the next one across is video. So these are videos that I posted. Now you may have heard of something called IGTV, Instagram TV, and IGTV was a thing for a while. It was Instagram's attempt to take on YouTube. Well, last year they decided to do away with IGTV, so you won't find references to IGTV anymore. But these videos are posts that were originally made onto IGTV. So the videos continue to live in the Instagram ecosystem, but they're no longer badged as being part of IGTV. And then the 4th option going across is tags. So click on there. So these are pictures where I have been tagged. Okay, so these are not pictures that I have taken necessarily. These are pictures where somebody else has chosen to tag me. Anyone can post a picture on Instagram and they can tag you in that picture if they want to. People tag for different reasons. People might tag to say, this is a picture that includes this particular person. This is a picture that includes a product that for that particular person, or they can do it just to get your attention. So they tag loads of people. So if I, for example, if I click on the Roa Beach Huts picture there, so this was, and then I tap on the picture, there we are. So that shows all the different people that were tagged in this picture when it was shared on Instagram. Why have they tagged me? They've tagged me purely to get my attention in the hope that I will take notice of it and I will share it or something like that. I have no idea who runs this particular account. I've leave the leaders on here just as an example, but you can choose, again, within settings, there are options to say, I don't want to be tagged in pictures. You can also go into pictures. There are settings in here which will allow you to remove yourself from being tagged in a picture. Top of my head, I can't remember where they are, but they're in there. And if you've got questions about, I want to find this thing and I don't know where it is, feel free, even after this session, to message me and say, I really want to know where this particular feature is. And I will endeavor to help you. I want you to be able to find your way around the system. Okay, so that's a quick look at the profile. Let's see what other questions have come in. Mita says, thank you for an interesting talk. Boom, boom, boom. Right, okay, that's it for questions for now. So if you've got questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. So let's look at a couple of other people who are using Instagram, because one of the big questions is, well, how can I use Instagram? Does my shop transfer to creator? Asked Paul. I have to say I'm out of date with a little rusty on where Instagram shops are. But yes, if you've got an Instagram shop set up and it's already attached to your Instagram account, well, I think you probably need a creator or business account to have a shop attached to it anyway. Then there shouldn't be any problems. Changing the account type should not disable anything. It just should give you more features in terms of the profile and the information you can add to your profile and giving you the analytics. The other question there was hashtags. I'm running a separate session on hashtags. I should have looked it up, shouldn't I, Ben? I'm running a training session again next week. I think that one actually may be on hashtags off the top of my head. I'm running one on Twitter in March. I know I'm running one on Instagram stories in March, and also email marketing. I think next week's one, certainly one of the ones coming up, is going to be covering hashtags. How many times is recommended to post, says Vicky. You know what, there's as many different views on this as there are different people who give views on this. Again, something like this, you might want to Google, how often should I post on Instagram? You'll get people giving different statistics. You'll get, certainly my recommendation is, if you want to be active on Instagram or any social media network, you should be posting at least once a day. Once a day really is a good minimum to start with. Now, if you can't manage once a day, then certainly a few times a week. Once a day is good. A few times a week is good, second best. Certainly Instagram, lots and lots of times a day. Probably not actually. Probably maybe, maybe 2 or 3 times a day, something like that. What you'll find is you find what works for you. Remember, this is about what's working for you, not about you working for it. And also what works for your audience. Can you post too much? Asked Vanessa. People start telling you you're posting too much. That's a good clue. And Paul's asking best times to post. Again, Google it. There are lots of different people who've researched this and have different opinions. What Instagram is telling me, so when I use the Business Suite, which we'll take a look at very briefly in a moment, Business Suite is a desktop, or you get to it through the desktop, through the browser, on your desktop or your laptop. Business Suite is another place where you can schedule posts, or a place where you can schedule posts for Instagram and also Facebook. And that's giving me a recommended time for posting. And what that tends to tell me is that the recommended time for posting is late afternoon, early evening. I have read stuff that says that posting in midday and early afternoon is good, because the way the algorithm works is the algorithm decides what to show people. So when you look at Instagram, you're seeing the post that the algorithm has decided what to show you. The way it decides what to show you is partly by it understanding what you like, but also understanding how many other people have already engaged with that post. So if someone puts out a post and it gets lots of comments, particularly, and saves, likes are not particularly valuable, but certainly comments and saves and certain people viewing it and taking time reading it on the screen, all that gets measured by the algorithm. Then the algorithm will say, well, actually, lots of people like this post. I'm going to show it to even more, or we're going to show it to even more people. So there's a theory that says if you're posting it midday, early afternoon, that gives the algorithm time to collect that information so that it can really push it out harder during the busy time. The peak time for people using social media in the UK is 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. But of course, there are people who use social media first thing in the morning. So first thing in the morning is a good time to post. Sort of Monday morning, 9, 10 a.m. is probably not, it's probably about the worst time to post, because people just aren't on Instagram at that point. But it depends on your audience. I know a photographer who she specializes in photographing very small children, particularly babies. And her target market is mums, young mums with young children. And she finds that posting at like 2 and 3 a.m. in the morning works for her, because young mums are up with their kids and they are on Instagram and Facebook. Okay, let's look at a couple of other accounts. So I'm going to come out here. Now, before I do that, the options right down across the bottom of the screen. So I've covered everything else. So what I'm looking at here is, so this is my profile. I'll press on the home, which is the bottom left icon. And this is typically what you get shown when you first go into Instagram. The home, this is where you're seeing the feed, the news feed. So if I just scroll, there's an advert coming up for LinkedIn. And there's various posts from other people. So this is the traditional news feed. This is where you see the posts that people have made. The next one across, the magnifying glass, is search. So this takes me and it shows me a whole load of search based upon what it thinks I'm interested in, which is I'm always intrigued at what comes up here. And there's a mix of things. So that, for example, where it says tutorial, that's a reel. So that's showing me a real video. Whereas the other things are mainly photographs. So then the next icon across the middle icon in the bottom, across the bottom there, is the Reels itself.
This is a work of art.
You can probably hear that as well.
This is a work of art.
So I'll get out of that. But that was Reels. And Reels are a longer form of video. I say longer, up to 30 seconds they can be. Reels are, so you've got stories, you've got Reels. Stories are short life. Stories will last for 24 hours. Reels will last indefinitely. Reels are very much designed to take on TikTok. If you're familiar at all with TikTok, then Reels are very much part of that. Similar, fast-paced, typically. You can put music over them, you can put graphics over them. Some people love them. It's not something that I've really got into. Is it worth keeping bot followers, says Paul? I have a view from paid ads, but these seem to disappear. Yes, I wouldn't recommend worrying about bot followers. What you want is real followers. You want people who are actually going to engage with what you do. I know the follower thing is interesting, isn't it? Because someone comes to your account and you've got 5 followers. Why should I follow you if you've only got like 5 or 25 or whatever followers? Well, they'll look at your content, and if your content's interesting, your follower count will grow. I did some work for a while with somebody who used to work with a minor celebrity, and she said that when she set the accounts up for the minor celebrity, she had to go and buy thousands of followers because that minor celebrity couldn't stand the thought of being on Instagram and having like 10 followers. They had to have thousands from the moment they started. Yeah, so for some people, follower numbers are a true vanity metric. Okay, so going across the bottom of the screen there, we've now jumped into the shopping tab. So again, this is where Instagram is showing me what I think I want to buy. You can now connect your Facebook shop to Instagram. And these are all shoppable posts where I can actually go in and choose to buy something. And then the fourth option across the bottom left there is taking back to my profile. You can manage multiple Instagram accounts from your device. Typically, you can manage, I think, 5. So if you have more than one Instagram account, you can move between them. If I just click at the top there, it says Andrew Explainer. You can see it's giving me a list of other Instagram accounts that I can choose to manage if I want to. There's various that I'm involved with. Also recommend that you have a test account or a playground account or an account where you can mess around, particularly if you want to get to grips with stories and reels, where you're using video and you want to be posting stuff live. So that top account called Cucumber and Brown is my test account. I use it. So when I run the training course in a few weeks' time on Instagram stories, I will be creating stories live on Cucumber and Brown. Why? Because the content of those stories will be complete rubbish. The point of using that account is not to create great posts. The point of using that account is to learn how to use the features. So I highly recommend that you open a new account, call it something completely random. Nobody will ever know it's associated with you, and just use it to post. I'm forever posting to the wrong account, says Linda. Yeah, that is a challenge. You do need to, if you're running multiple accounts, you do need to make sure that you are posting to the correct one. That can get embarrassing, particularly if you're managing accounts for clients. Which I used to do. I still run an account for one client, but that's not something I tend to do these days. I'd rather be training people in how to use the system. So we're going to have a quick look at, where the time is running away with me. Have a look at a couple of accounts. So let me go into the Botanical Candle Company. Now, if you want to learn how to use Instagram more effectively, look at what other people are doing. Learn from them. Talk to them. You'll be surprised at the number of people who are using Instagram who are doing well with it, and they are very happy to share their success and share something of how they've learned. So I first started following the Botanical Candle Company 4 years ago when I first started running these workshops. They're a Dorset-based business. I've never been there in person, but they're in North Dorset. And back then when I started following them, I can't remember the number, but it was certainly probably 10,000 followers, something like that. They're now, as you can now see now, they've now got 66,000 followers, and they're only following 495 accounts. And yeah, just look at their profile. You can see immediately there's a strong, consistent theme behind the pictures that they're using. They're using a similar color palette. They're similar images, and yet they're also distinctive. They're also well taken, good quality photos. As I said earlier on, I was speaking to somebody yesterday. Now this is Twitter, but someone was using, sorry, I was put off there by a question. I can come back to that. So on Twitter, and someone's grown really well on Twitter, and she said she doesn't have a clue really how she's being successful on Twitter. But the one thing that she does know is that she's creating good quality images. She's sharing good quality photos, and that's making a big difference to her following. The quality of photos makes a big difference. So particularly if you're a product business, then think about how to photograph your products in a way that's really going to catch people's eye. And you can see here from the grid, you've got various different types of photos. So some of the photos have got the little shopping bag symbol on, so that means they're shoppable posts. There's a product in there that people can click on and buy. Some of them are reels. They've got the reel symbol, the sort of clapperboard video symbol. Some of them have got multiple images in the post. So, for example, the one here in the top left, If I click on that, you see it says 1 out of 2. So it's a carousel post effectively. There's 2 different pictures there. So I say, learn from other people. You'll find that a lot of people are very generous in terms of sharing how it's working for them. How do you change the name of your tiles? Says Joe. Tiles. Yeah, I confess you got me there, Joe. I'm not quite sure what your tiles are in this context. So if you want to help me out, feel free. What you can't do right now, so let me go back to Botanical Candle. Let me go look at their profile. So I'm looking at the profile for the Botanical Candle Company. Obviously, I don't manage this, so the button options are different. It's telling me, do I want to view the shop? Do I want to follow them? Well, I'm already following them. Do I want to message them, contact them? So there's various options there, and they've got those options because they're using a business account. They've also got the web address at the top there. One of the things about Instagram is you can't put URLs, web addresses on individual posts. The only place you can put it is on your profile at the top here. So where they've got Botanical Candle Company.co.uk, that's the only place they can put that. Some people use an app called Linktree. What Linktree does is it takes you to a page where you can add multiple posts, or you might want to send people to a page on your website which is designed to make navigation easy, so that they can, they click through onto your website, and then you want them to go, if there are multiple options, they can choose between those options. So think about how you use that one web address, because it's really quite valuable to you. Because it's the only web link that you're going to get out of Instagram. What you can't do right now is you can't change the order of these tiles, so all these photos. I understand that Instagram are working on an app or feature where you may actually be able to rearrange these, and you can delete individual posts, but you can't change the order. And they're obviously shown in the order in which they are posted. I read somewhere to use hashtags for keywords in the profile. There's no harm having 1 or 2 hashtags in your profile, but the reality is hashtags really work best on posts. So when you're posting something, you want to put plenty of hashtags on it. You can use up to 30 hashtags. So I run a separate session that covers hashtags in a lot more detail. The search feature on Instagram used to only work on hashtags, which is why hashtags are so important. It also works now on other words, but still hashtags are still a key driver to getting visibility. So for example, if I click on this post here, and you can see they've used just several hashtags: snowdrop season, visit Shaftesbury, snowdrops. Researching hashtags is a whole separate process. You can spend a lot of time researching which hashtags work for you, and there is a very strong element of trial and error in that. There are third-party tools, systems that you can buy, which will allow you to have a better idea of what's working with hashtags. Okay, I wanted to, and we're almost out of time, so what I wanted to do, so I'm going to stop sharing from this now. And what I wanted to do is very briefly just take you onto the desktop and show you Creator Studio and Business Suite. So stop that. So what I've done here is I've gone onto my desktop computer, and I am showing you a tool called Business Suite. Now, someone's already referred to using it earlier on, so some of you may be already familiar with Business Suite. Business Suite is a tool that they're improving all the time. I'll be honest, it can be very complicated. It's very easy to get lost in it. It's business.facebook.com. And what this allows you to do is to manage your different accounts. If I go down. Let's choose Cucumber and Brown. So there we are. So this is that test account that I was talking about. So what it's showing me is a whole load of information about the posts that I put out there. But down the left-hand side, it says notifications, inbox. You can manage your messages and your comments. It allows you to see posts and stories. So I go down to posts and stories. Again, you can get more information on that. There's a whole wealth of different things here. What's important is in the top right-hand corner, it says create post and create story. So you can create stories from here in Business Suite. And you can also schedule posts and schedule stories from here. So you can create posts and you can also schedule them. And you can do that for both Instagram and Facebook. Unfortunately, the story creation option on the desktop doesn't give you the same wealth of GIFs and stickers and features that you currently get on stories if you manage them through your smartphone. And as I'm not aware, the question was asked, can I create those story highlights and can I manage my story highlights from a desktop? And I'm not aware that you can. You can delete stuff from there, but you can't actually manage them. So that's one area where you can go to manage your posts and information on Instagram. Another tool that's available to you is what's called Creator Studio. And Creator Studio also lets you schedule posts for Facebook and Instagram, and has quite similar, but not entirely the same options. Why would you use Creator Studio versus Business Suite? Well, some people like one, some people like the other. Take a look at both. Again, this one you'll find it's also again confusingly business.facebook.com. I can't remember how you set them up because it's so long since I set them up, and the method of doing it will have changed. So if you're not using these tools, again, go back to our good friend Google. Google, how do I create Facebook Creator Studio? How do I set up Facebook Business Suite? You'll be taken to a page where it will take you through the process. Again, got questions, you are very welcome to message me and I'll see what I can do to help point you in the right direction. And the third screen that I wanted to show you here is actually Instagram itself on. So this is Instagram through the browser. So this is where you can go on the desktop and you can just go to instagram.com and you can log into your account. Again, you can manage multiple accounts through this particular screen if you want to. You can just flip and change. Thank you, says Rowan. I have to leave now. Well, thank you for joining. Okay, so where are we? So this is the desktop version. And so you can move between your different profiles, and you can also manage your profile from here. I'm aware that I'm dipping out a picture when I do that, but you probably want to see the screen. So yes, you can just go and look at my profile. So that's the profile. That's the way the profile is presented on the desktop version. Okay, so what we've done there is we have blasted through very quickly how to use Instagram, or some of the basics of Instagram in just 45 minutes. I hope that's been useful to you. I hope it's been constructive. If you've got a question, then what I'll do actually is I will unmute in a minute when we're sort of formally finished, just a minute or so. Just to remind you, I'll send a feedback form. You are very welcome to fill it in. That's really useful to me as a trainer. It's always good to know what's worked well for you, what you've liked. I also need to know, please, what it is that could be improved on. I've tried to squeeze a lot of material into this session, and I've already decided that I'm going to have to break it up when I do it again, because they're constantly adding new features to the system, and it just gets harder and harder to talk about. It's intelligently in 45 minutes. There's just so much to talk about, and I appreciate you've probably got questions that haven't been answered. So thank you very much, as I said, for being here. A question here about emojis. I read somewhere to use hashtags for keywords on my profile. Are these any better? Are these any good to use or better to use than emojis? Emojis are great. People like emojis. I mean, not everybody likes emojis, obviously, but emojis, connecting through imagery. Again, there's no absolute rights or wrongs here. There's no absolute science. I personally would say that only use your brand hashtag really in your profile. Your profile is there's only a few characters there really. It's valuable space. If there's a hashtag that you use a lot and you want people to use, so for example, I've got a hashtag Andrew Explains, so earlier on that I encourage people to use, but I haven't bothered to put that in my profile. But more generic hashtags in your profile, I really wouldn't bother with. Hashtags are really going to work most effectively on posts. And the science would show, or the research would show, that hashtags in the body of a post are more effective than hashtags in a caption, in a comment, sorry. So when you're making a post on Instagram, put the hashtags in the body of the post, in the caption area, rather than putting them in the comments. That does make a bit of a difference. But at the end of the day, that might make a significant difference if you've got millions and millions of followers or hundreds of thousands. But for a very small account, probably the difference is minor. What's more important is the quality. What's more important is the consistency. What's more important is showing up. And this would be my last comment, is social media is about being social. Don't just put stuff out there and expect people to take notice. Take the time to engage with other people. Look at other people's posts. Comment on their posts. Like their posts. Liking is minor, but commenting, getting involved in conversation. Social media works best, most effectively, when we are social with other people. That's really what it's all about, rather than just posting pictures and hoping people will buy from you. So I hope that's been useful. So feel free to hang around and ask questions. I'll do that for about 10 minutes or so. Feel free, please fill in the feedback form. As I said, I will draw, at the end of the month, I'll draw a couple of people out from the feedbacks, and I'll offer them a free 45-minute sort of custom one-to-one session. I love talking to small business owners. So thank you very much for being here this afternoon. Trust it's been useful.